You've also got no chance of getting a patent if your invention breaks the law of the land, or if, believe it or not, it offends public morality, as defined by the Patent Office. But inventive minds find inventive solutions. For years, there was a patent for a rubber finger shield, even if you never found one in a first aid box. Now, the atom bomb, that was different. They happily granted a patent for that. But a life-size inflatable rubber dolly, for instance, no chance. But let's suppose you've invented something nice and simple, like the perfect mousetrap, and you want to prevent unscrupulous characters from nibbling away at the idea. Well, this is where you come for protection, the Patent Office. It's at 25 Southmapton Buildings on the edge of the city. But hang on, before we go in, let me tell you, it's not going to be cheap and it's not going to be easy. The simple way is to employ a patent agent, an independent professional man who'll do it all for you, in much the same way that a solicitor does the conveyancing on your house. It's money again, though, an extra £200 for starters. Let's assume you're not that fat a cat until the world discovers your mousetrap, in which case, wide-eyed optimist that you are, you enter here. Step one is the easiest. It's just a couple of forms, an application form and a provisional specification of your invention. At this stage, it costs you just £1. Now you've got a year's grace in which to develop your idea. You can hawk it round to manufacturers to see if they're interested. You can set up a business for yourself if you like. You can even put patent pending on any item you make, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you'll eventually get a patent. To do that, you've got to clear a second hurdle, something, unfortunately, that can only be prepared for by a long, hard slog in a place like this. It's the patent library, a vast inventory of inventions. 17 million brain children repose on these shelves, some of them a bit long in the tooth now, having been spawned way back in the 1800s. It's a great gallery of new ideas. New ideas, old new ideas, even foreign new ideas. 1.5 million of the patents here are British, the rest from countries all over the world. The crux of the exercise is to establish the novelty of the invention. It must be brand new, even if it's ever appeared in any publication, albeit the humblest parish magazine, it's not new. So don't go ringing up your local newspaper with your great discovery until you've got it patented. If you suspect that it has leaked out somewhere, there are 100,000 books, pamphlets and periodicals here that you can browse through while you're at it. Well, you did want to save money on the patent agent. But if you are truly satisfied that your invention is indeed brand new, you're ready for the second stage. You put in a complete specification. But this is where most do-it-yourselfers come unstuck.
Because when he comes to supply his complete specification, he's got to tell the public exactly how to make his article, and frequently the do-it-yourself man is not too literate. He may, in his own mind, think things are trifling and leave them out, whereas a skilled draftsman would put them in. And he's got to tell the public what is the forbidden area when the patent is granted. And that is a very difficult job.
So you put in your complete specification. All you can do now is sit down and wait. On average, you have to wait 13 months while the paperwork finds its way to the top of the pile. Eventually, it reaches someone like this. He's one of 500 specialists employed by the Patent Office to examine your claim. Again, he'll wade through all previous inventions and publications in that particular field to make sure that what you've got is novel. The examiner is the devil's advocate, and if there's a flaw, you can be sure he'll find it. In fact, the most common complaint against the Patent Office is that the examiners are downright unhelpful. Whether you're satisfied or not, this is the man who makes or breaks you. But if your claim is all you say it is, you will eventually get his seal of approval.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
So now, with your patent in your hot little hand, you're home and dry. Mice of the world beware, the perfect mousetrap has arrived. All you've got to do is sit back and wait for the money to start rolling in. Well, no. This bit of paper doesn't guarantee you'll ever make a penny out of your invention. You see, that's no part of the patent office's job. They don't even guarantee their own patent. Anybody can object to it in the High Court during its whole life, and that can be a very expensive business. Poor old James Watt spent years fighting off challenges to his steam engine. He finally won, but Richard Arkwright, who revolutionized the cotton industry, had his patent removed after 10 years. Right at this moment, Kodak and Polaroid are squaring up for a legal scrap about instant photographs. But with a bit of luck, this is not going to happen to your invention, and you're secure for 16 years. Provided, of course, you keep on paying. Every year, if you want to keep your patent, you've got to pay a steadily increasing sum. At the end of the 16 years, you'll have paid out the grand total of £905. So it's not a cheap process by any means. You start off paying money and you continue to pay money for years. No problem, of course, if you happen to be the chairman of ICI, but what about the little man? Is there still room, you find yourself wondering, for the ordinary chap who gets a bright idea and thinks it's got potential? Well, the simple answer is, there is. And here, you've got a pretty good example of it. Clarence, Fred and George are 3 black country mates, keen anglers to a man, and they believe they've come up with a device that takes the guesswork out of slinging your hook. Clarence thought of the idea. Fred, who's an engineer, spent 18 months secretly developing it in a shed in his back garden. And George, well, he was the guinea pig. They gave it to him when it was finished and said that if he could use it, anybody could. With the help of a friend who knew about patents, they pushed it through themselves. And they're now the proud owners of patent number 1364481, entitled Improvements in Rod and Line Means for Anglers. They've even started marketing their invention in a small way, and they've given it a name, the Depth Master. Like many good ideas, it's simplicity itself. It's a plastic sleeve that slides along the line and stops at any point you like, determined by a knot of cotton. What's new is that you fix your float to this sleeve, not to the line. And if you know where the fish are, this, they claim, is a foolproof way of dangling your bait right in front of their noses. They're making the devices in Fred's garden shed and selling them round the angling shops for about 20 pence a time. Not a fortune, maybe, but when you consider there are about 8 million anglers in this country, it gives them an enormous market that nobody else anywhere can touch.
I reckon there's at least 4 million dedicated who would use this idea that we've got, without a shadow of a doubt. Once they've used one and got it right and put it together and had the results, then I think they would stick with this in their creel all the years that they fish. I'm convinced of this.
Clarence, Fred and George have already covered the cost of their patent by selling their little devices. But of the enormous number of bright ideas that surface every year, thousands sink without trace. The secret, patently, is to find one good enough to stay afloat.